Inside the stories that affect you. This is Inside KELOLNAD.
Good evening, I'm Sammy Bielen. Thank you for joining us. A cold winter snowstorm, then extensive flooding. People in KELOLNAD have been putting up with a lot the last several months. For farmers and ranchers, it feels like one challenge after another. Tonight, we sit down with the South Dakota Farm Bureau to show you what South Dakota's #1 industry is up against. The outdoor campus in Sioux Falls is recovering from flood damage of its own, what they've been through and have to offer you this summer just ahead. Plus, a growing need has the banquet in Sioux Falls building another location. We show you the plans tonight. It's full speed ahead for farmers and ranchers as the sun and heat return. Farmers are planting where they can, but are still behind schedule due to the unseasonable wet spring. Joining us tonight to help you get a better understanding about what this industry is up against is Crystal Smith, the Executive Director of South Dakota's Farm Bureau. Welcome, Crystal.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Now, please first describe how far behind are the farmers right now?
Well, you know, this recent warm weather has just been amazing for progress. And at the beginning of the week in South Dakota, there was about 44% of the corn was planted, but that is behind an average of 86%, you know, in normal years or overall like a 5-year average. And so that's significant. Now we know that people have made tremendous progress yet this week since it's been sunny most of the week. So, you know, and then as we look at soybeans, about 14% is planted in the state, and that's behind 82% as the average. To compare it nationwide, because this struggle is going on in many of our Midwest states. And so nationally, corn is at 67% and soybeans are at 39%. So we are still lagging behind the national average. But again, you know, this warm weather and sunshine has been, you know, creating an atmosphere where farmers can really be going nonstop, round the clock.
Yeah, and I know a lot of them have been going out and getting some planted.
Right.
But what options do the farmers have if they can't get into their fields until, say, July?
Well, you know, there's so much is tied to their crop insurance, and that crop insurance really sets the dates for you know, planting deadlines. So, for example, in South Dakota, the corn planting deadline has already passed, and so if in order to be 100% insured, if producers choose to plant corn after the planting date, which was May 31st, they lose 1% of coverage for every day following that deadline. For soybeans in Southeast South Dakota, it is June 10th. And so there's still a lot of opportunity to get crops planted before Monday, I guess it is. But, you know, so if farmers choose to or pass, if their land is not ready to plant by these planting deadlines, the options that they might have are cover crops. And they can either take prevented plant, and which, you know, pays them 1% of what their normal coverage would be, or they can pursue planting cover crops, which would include a variety of different forages or legumes, things like oats, beets, and just different grasses and things like that. But that's a really good option for them if, you know, just to maintain soil health and prevent erosion, but it still isn't like having a cash crop.
Of course. And I know it's not just the produce farmers that are struggling right now. How are people with cattle, livestock, how are they doing?
Exactly. So as I mentioned before, you know, just the forage that might typically be planted, or even choosing some cover crops for forage, is really going to be an interesting balance as we go forward. So, for example, dairies in the state that rely a lot on silage production, without the normal corn planting, they are going to really struggle this year without having access to forage. And there's going to be some decisions made, I think, by livestock producers over the next couple of months about whether or not they're able to maintain their herds, or if they need to look at selling off some livestock just because they won't have access to forage. And of course, if they need to buy that forage, it's going to be very expensive because the market is really going to do some changing over the next few months. So I think just opening up the conversation for some options one thing that South Dakota Farm Bureau is working on with, in collaboration with our national organization, American Farm Bureau Federation, we have been reaching out to USDA and RMA, which really set the rules for some of the options for grazing and haying in the state, or nationally, excuse me. Right now, you're not able to hay or graze anything like cover crops prior to November 1st. And so what we're asking is for, you know, potentially opening that up to October 1st. So that there might be some forage options available. I know some efforts with other organizations taking place throughout the state are matching livestock growers with people who might have forage and trying to kind of connect them and see if there can be some collaboration in that way.
Yeah, that's all great information. And obviously here on KELO, we've been talking about how this impacts the farmers directly.
Right.
But what impacts the farmers also affects the people in the cities. So describe exactly how this is impacting communities and the whole state, really.
Right. That's a great, great comment, because we're really all in this together. Again, with farmers being, or agriculture being, the #1 industry in the state, when their income, when the source of income for our farmers and ranchers is significantly impacted, it's going to impact our small towns and communities first. And, you know, it eventually will trickle up to our metro areas as well. And, you know, I've talked to a lot of farmers that say, yeah, you know, we're being hit by this, and this is going to impact our access to markets and all of those things. But you know, they're concerned about their agribusiness partners as well, whether it's the banking industry or the other industries that provide products and services like chemical companies and seed companies. They also will not have the same type of income. And so when you think about that, it's just, it's a domino effect in terms of, you know, there's going to be less spending likely by farmers and ranchers in the state. And then also the industries that serve them will also likely have cutbacks and things that will impact the spending ability of their employees. So again, that it's just really going to be something that will likely see the effects of this for a number of months and, you know, long term in the future. And it's not just, so we've talked about the fact that this wet spring has impacted the ability to plant and have a crop to harvest this fall. But really, farmers are facing kind of a double whammy with also the trade war that's going on. And so access to markets and all of that has complicated everything.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of money, there's the gravel roads, rural roads that are tore up right now. Do you know who will end up paying for those? Because it is, farmers use them, but so do people who live out in the country.
Yeah, that's a great question. And that is a challenge, again, like I mentioned before. This is going to be a long-term challenge that will not have immediate answers. You know, all you have to do is probably head out of Sioux Falls, and you'll encounter some local township roads that are in disrepair. The gravel is very soft in some areas. They're just by the necessity of, let's use dairies again for an example, they have to get milk in and out of their facilities on a daily basis. And there's likely ruts on some of those roads. And just in addition to that, there's been a lot of roads that have been washed out due to the flooding and water issues. So there are a lot of challenges, and townships really do not have ready access to funding, and they're really the ones in the township areas, obviously, that are responsible for the upkeep of those roads and bridges. But everything is really centered around property taxes, however. So the money that townships do get right now for upkeep of roads are coming from the farmers and ranchers themselves, because property taxes are paid by landowners. And so already our rural folks are paying a significant amount of that, you know, just regular upkeep. So I think there's going to have to be some conversations going forward. There is discussion about having FEMA dollars available. We don't know yet about that, but FEMA dollars do require match from state and local, you know, sources. And so I'm sure that once that becomes available, those counties and local communities will have to decide how much they're able to put toward that repair.
Yeah, all wonderful information. Thank you so much for joining us,
Well,
Crystal.
thanks for having us.
And it's also important for farmers to talk with someone during these trying times. Avera Behavioral Health has a free and confidential farmers stress hotline. The number is 1-800-691-4336. Up next, the adventure that awaits you at the outdoor campus. Stay with us inside KELOLNAD. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Inside KELOLNAD. You can explore the great outdoors without leaving city limits here in Sioux Falls. Joining us tonight to explain what the outdoor campus has for all ages is the director, Thea Miller-Ryan. Welcome so much.
Thank you.
So explain to people who haven't been, what is the outdoor campus?
Well, we are basically a nature center, but we teach outdoor skills education. So we teach people things like hunting, fishing, camping, canoeing, kayaking, anything you can do outdoors. We love to teach that.
That's awesome. And you also have some indoor play.
We also have some indoor areas. That's going to hopefully be changing pretty soon. We haven't made any big announcements yet, but we're doing a addition to our building.
Wow.
And yeah, we're really excited about it, and it's going to change things a little bit, but it's still the same great place.
That's awesome. And I know you guys experienced some of the flooding we've all been talking about.
We did.
What have you experienced?
Well, the waters came up very high, the highest they've ever been. Our parking lot was about 4 feet deep.
Really?
Yeah, it was.
Wow.
And our bridge, as you could see in the picture there, the bridge did buckle in the flood. So it is unusable right now. So part of our trail system is cut off, which is a bummer for people because we have about 2 miles of walking trails and running trails, and about half of them are cut off for right now.
Wow.
But it's in the plan to be built. It won't be, unfortunately, until next summer, but we'll be putting in a new bridge, and it'll be new and exciting.
That's wonderful. Now, people may be wondering, how much will it cost to come out and explore the outdoor campus?
That's my favorite question. Everything at the outdoor campus is free. Everything that we do, we don't have an admission charge. All of our classes are free. It is really a great place to go for all ages. We do a lot of family programming, so you can bring the whole family and experience some incredible activities like canoeing and outdoor cooking. All of that is free.
Wow, and who funds all of this stuff?
Our funding comes from the sale of hunting and fishing licenses in South Dakota. So we're part of the South Dakota Department of Game, Fish and Parks. So we're part of the state of South Dakota, but we don't have general fund dollars that fund us. It's mostly hunting and fishing licenses.
Okay.
And then we get a little bit of excise tax from things like fishing poles and guns that people buy. There's a little extra tax built into that. You don't even notice it when you go and buy them. But that comes to us as well to help us do more outdoor programming.
That's wonderful. And you mentioned you have classes and things. What are the sort of courses that you offer, and do you still have some left for people to sign up this summer?
Yeah, it is a little bit hard to sign up for our classes. We do a month by month in the summertime. So the ones for June right now that we're in, those are pretty full.
Sure.
We have some waiting lists. We always tell people don't be afraid of our waiting lists because you do get in. People cancel. They forget grandma was coming that weekend, and so they call and cancel, and people bump in. Our registration for July programming begins on June 12th at 7 a.m. Oh. So, gosh, is that next week already? And,
it's coming.
It's coming up. And we'll have all of our July programming open, and then we do the same for August. Wow. So it'll be mid-July when we register for August programs. Now, because our programs are so hard to get into, we have also started offering this incredible new program called Super Saturdays.
Oh. And
so every Saturday this summer through the end of July, we have an outdoor activity that you can bring your whole family to, and it is absolutely free. You don't need any equipment for it. So this weekend, for example, I think we're doing archery this weekend.
Oh, wow.
And it's from 10 a.m. to 12 noon, and then we take a little lunch break, and then 1 to 3. And you can come anytime during then. You can stay for 10 minutes. You can stay for all 4 hours if you want.
Well, that's awesome. And I assume there will be professionals there to teach and assist.
Yes. No matter what it is, on Super Saturdays we either do fishing, canoeing and kayaking, or archery. And we have trained staff who's there, and safety, of course, is our, first thing.
Yeah.
And we make sure that everybody's safe and good.
Yeah, and speaking of safety, this is a time of year when little babies are being born out in nature. Is there anything you want people to know if they see
please, yes.
the little
Thank
animals
you.
at outdoor campus?
Yes, thank you for that opportunity, not just at the outdoor campus, but anywhere. If you see a baby animal, what we tell people is if you care, leave it there. The best thing that you can do is just leave them alone. I had a mom call me just before I left, and she said that her kids found a baby bird on the ground and brought it in, and she said, I'm not sure I did the right thing, but I told them to bring it back outside and put it back in the tree. And I said, you did the right thing.
Yeah.
Birds, North American birds can't smell. So it's a myth that if you get a baby bird that it's sent, its mother will reject it. Not so for mammals. So like a fawn or a bunny, that would be a different situation. And yeah, so you try not to touch them, try to just leave them outside and let Mother Nature take its course. Mother Nature's not always nice.
Yeah.
But that's the best thing for all of us.
Sure, that makes sense. And the outdoor campus is not a petting zoo. The animals out in nature should be left alone in nature.
Absolutely. We have some baby fawns out there right now, some twins that were just born, and people keep coming in and they bring us pictures. We're happy to see the pictures, just don't bring us the fawns.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you so much, Thea. And we'll put a link to the outdoor campus at KELOLNAD.com.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend. Well, up next, the banquet is expanding its services. We'll explain the growing need when Inside KELOLAND returns. Welcome back to Inside KELOLAND. For years, the banquet in Central Sioux Falls has served warm meals and more to families in need. A few years ago, they started also serving meals from the W.H. Lyon Fairgrounds in Western Sioux Falls. And now they're making an even bigger move. To talk about their upcoming projects and events, we are joined by Tamara Yerke-Liesinger and Madeline Shields. Welcome, ladies.
Thanks for having us.
First off, just for people who are not familiar, how many people does the banquet serve each year?
Well, the banquet serves over 200,000 meals each year. So we do have obviously people who eat with us more than one time a year. So hundreds of people are benefited by the banquet every year.
Wow, that's amazing. And it's not just homelessness, correct? I feel like that's a misconception.
Absolutely. We do serve a homeless population in our community, but the majority of people who are eating at the banquet are people just like you and I. They're going to work every day, they're paying their rent, they're taking their kids to school, but they just need some help getting that nutritious meal on the table. So they come to the banquet to eat with us.
Sure. And you guys recently broke ground to help serve even more people. Explain that project.
We did. Last week we had a groundbreaking ceremony on our new location, our new piece of land that was donated to us. So we're really excited about that. Construction will start on Monday.
Wow.
So we are off and running, and we couldn't be happier.
And that looks beautiful. Do you have any idea yet of how many meals will be served there per week?
Out there, we will be serving 5 meals a week.
Okay.
Currently, we are at the fairgrounds. We are only serving 2 meals a week.
Oh.
So that's a big jump for us in the number of meals that we'll be serving every week.
That means you need more people, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Every time you add a meal, you need to add a volunteer group to serve that meal. So that's where our challenge now is. We're building the building. That was one of our bigger challenges. Now the next big challenge is making sure that we have volunteers to come in and serve and pay for those meals.
And how do people get involved in that way? What do they need to do if they have a friend or a group then they want to come in?
It's really easy. We ask that people just go to our website. They can check it out. It steps it out for them right there. They can even sign up online right there. If they want to, they can give us a call. We always want to remind people that no group is too small. If it's one person, we want you to come. If you have 40 people, we want you to come.
That's
so
awesome.
we have all kinds of options for people to serve.
Very cool. And I know you guys have other efforts, fundraising. You have something coming up.
Sure,
Madeline?
we do. It's called Bike for the Banquet. And it's Saturday, June 15th at Sertoma Park. And we're inviting all people who are professional bikers, as well as families who just want to get out and do the bike trails with their kids. And if people want to walk, we'll certainly welcome them. It's going to be very similar to the Run for Food that we have on Thanksgiving, but this is a bike event. So we're really excited. Again, it's a no-frills event. It is no registration, no t-shirts, no clock. Just come in. We ask for a $10 suggested donation that supports the banquet. and then we'll start right at 9 o'clock. There's going to be two courses, a short course and a longer course. The short course will be a 1.5 mile family fun course that will go south from Sertoma Park. And the longer course is about 6.5 miles for those serious bikers, and that goes to Dunham Park and turns around and comes back to Sertoma.
And how did you guys come up with the idea to bike? I know a lot of people have marathons and stuff.
Sure. Well, you know, we've been doing the Run for Food for many years, and a lot of times the biking community will show up at that event. And so we just get a lot of support from a lot of different people. And we thought, you know, let's include an event just for the biking community. And there are a lot of people that just want to get out. They want to do a family event. And it's a great way to get out and support the banquet ministry by doing something with your family. And we welcome everyone, and we'll get some information to folks about if they want to come and volunteer at the banquet. And you know, we are a nonprofit 501c3. Every donation is tax deductible. And we are 100% privately funded. And I think a lot of people are surprised by that. We receive no city, county, state, federal, or United Way funds. So our largest donation population is those $25 to $50 donations. That's what keeps our doors open.
Sure. Which is why you guys obviously are always welcoming donation gifts as well as volunteers.
As well.
Yeah, you're never under a blackout.
No.
No, not us.
We are
Always
not.
welcome. And you mentioned there's a raffle too. Maybe explain that a little bit.
Sure, we do. We have a raffle sales. And what it is it's for a $5 donation, folks will be able to win $1,000, $500, or $250. It's 3 cash prizes, all for a $5 donation, and we will choose the winner. We will pick the winners of that raffle at the Bike for the Banquet on June 15th. Now, you do not need to be present to win, because we have been having these available since April 1st. And so this is a great way to support the banquet ministry and maybe win a little bit of cold hard cash at the same time.
Wow, that's amazing. And just to encourage people, just describe what the banquet means to the guests who are being served. Just what response they give you guys and volunteers when they come through the doors.
Banquet guests are so grateful for everything that the banquet volunteers provide for them. And people who come in, especially if somebody's never volunteered at the banquet before, they are just so overwhelmed to see how polite and how courteous and how grateful our guests are. It really does mean so much to them. So that's why when those volunteers come through the doors, not only does it help us fulfill our ministry, but it brings happiness and joy to people who eat with us.
Wonderful. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining us. We'll put more information on all of this at KELOLNAD.com. We're going to take a quick break. Stay with us inside KELOLNAD. We'll be right back. You can find out more about today's topics online at KELOLNAD.com. Just click on the Inside KELOLAND section. Join us every Sunday following the 10 o'clock news right here on KELO TV. That's all the time we have for today. Be sure to join us again next week for more of what's going on inside KELOLAND.